James! On today's DNVR Broncos podcast, I hope James Palmer joins me because we got a lot to talk about, and he's not seeing things the way that I saw them in practice with Bo Nix. Let's dive into it now. It's 100 degrees out there, but the good news is the palm trees are swaying on the DNVR Broncos show because we got Jimmy Palm Trees, James Palmer, joining us today.
What's up, buddy?
How's it going?
It's getting hot out there.
Oh, my goodness.
I know it's boring to talk about the weather, but God bless it.
Just shout out to Sean Payton for having these practices at 10 because I know there was a thought of maybe pushing them to the afternoon this year, and that would have been brutal.
I'd have been fine with 8.
PM or AM?
AM.
Oh, yeah,
we
please.
practice at 8 at night.
yeah, that would be
AM would have been
miserable. Nice. 8 a.m. would have been very nice. But it's nice to be doing this pod with you, James, and getting your insight today. And, of course, we are the DNVR Broncos Podcast, joined by the legend, James Palmer. And we are live from the Toyota Lounge here inside the DNVR bar. And, of course, Toyota Lounge is driven by your Front Range Automotive Toyota stores. So check them out if you need a new car. So many locations there. But, James, let's dive into it today because yesterday was hot. The day before was hot. Every day's been hot. But there was something different with today's practice today.
Yeah, the reason I brought up the weather, there was a point to this, and that's because I don't know why they were out there as long as they were. They did 3 days in pads. Actually, in my opinion, yesterday had a pretty spirited practice pace-wise for the first day out of pads. And sometimes that's a struggle. Like, guys get out of pads, maybe they kind of, check it out a little bit and go like, yeah, we're going to slow it down. That wasn't the case with the pace of practice yesterday. And then we know what Saturday's going to be. It's going to be the closest thing to a scrimmage you can kind of have in the pads. There's going to be some, real periods for training camp. They're not tackling to the ground, but they'll have some move the ball stuff and, some red zone stuff and things like that. So in my opinion, I'm like, why are we out here for 2.5 hours? Stopping practice repeatedly for teachable moments, which is essentially what happened, for as long as they did, when obviously he's going to want the best out of everybody on Saturday.
Right.
I find that kind of interesting today because, man, let's start off with this. Practice stopped over and over and over again, starting with the walkthrough.
Yep.
Like, they stopped the walkthrough multiple times, which is what they do before they even get into their stretch.
Yep.
And I thought it was going to be a shorter practice because I was like, this walkthrough is pretty long.
Right.
We're going to have a shorter practice here, and we're going to be a little bit lighter because obviously we really want to see what we can do physically on Saturday.
Right.
And this thing just went. Now, Sean Payton told us afterwards, and I had the binoculars out. And
the bird watching ones.
Yeah, I got a big old strap. It didn't come with those binoculars. They're for like a suitcase or something.
It's true.
And you could see almost every time it stopped, it was Sean Payton in the middle, really hampering details, like really trying to make sure everything is perfect. How many times did you see Bo Nix go to the line of scrimmage and then it get called back into the huddle?
A concerning number.
Half a dozen?
Yes.
Probably in team period?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. And you're right. It was Bo Nix, the one that they were drawing that back. And Sean said, today, this was always the plan for this to happen today. He said he talked to his coaches before practice and said, well, I can't really tell you exactly what I said to him, but I said, I want to be on their
ass.
There you go.
I think that's what he meant to say.
Everything. That's exactly. And Sean Payton was on their ass about everything. And like you said, James, that last year, that was a norm in training camp, was to stop practice multiple times. Everyone get in here where you can hear me. And the whole team huddles up and then they disperse. And Sean would do that a couple of times. And then we heard him talk about it last year. He said there's 50 different scenarios, unique scenarios that we need to practice throughout training camp in the off season. Today was really the first time that he has gone back to that and really taught that again. And I thought it was interesting that it took till day 9 for him to do it. But I guess a lot of the guys were on the team last year. But today was, okay, we're going back to the roots. We're making sure nothing slips through the cracks in this practice.
Yeah, that's what it was. And maybe that was kind of, they're out there for a long time, and I'm kind of curious to scratch my head because that's just usually not the norm when you're going to have a big scrimmage the next day, unless you're Mike Tomlin, probably.
Right.
I was there last year. They're off-site in Latrobe, and they have a scrimmage in the stadium for the fans, and the next morning they're in pads doing like full contact.
I mean, that's old school Mike Tomlin.
That's old school Mike Tomlin. So, but you're right. I think what he was trying to do is like, let's make sure it's perfect today, operational wise, the mental side of things. A lot of teaching so we can go out and play tomorrow. Like that might be part of why he wanted to drive it all home in this practice, because it was a really cool aspect. I might be getting ahead of myself, but the 2-minute to end practice, I won't get into kind of how the quarterbacks played right now, but there was a long pause, and we're all waiting, for Sean to talk to us, and we're like, man, is the other quarterback still going to get another chance to do the same thing here? Because this period's going on forever. And I could hear Sean, and it was really kind of cool. He's in the middle of the field, of the group, and he's going, hey, like, where are they at on the field? If you're the defense right now, think about where they're at. What type of routes is this offense going to want to try to run to get into field goal range? Where are they looking to, have those routes happen on the field? Think about all of these things. Think about how much time's on the clock. Really trying to hamper down on that 2-minute, because how many good teams in this league, Zach, score at the end of half, end of game? And how many teams that are really, really bad at giving up end of half, end of game?
That's what separates the good and the bad. I mean, for the most part, you don't see 70-20 happen often in the NFL. It's these couple point games. And Sean said after practice, you're going to have nearly every single game at the end of the half and then at the end of the game. You're going to have these scenarios.
It's an Andy Reid staple, honestly. Like, to defer, get the ball in the second half, and score in the last 2 minutes of the first half. You're getting back-to-back possessions.
Right.
And you have a chance to get back-to-back points. It's how the Chiefs do it a lot in these games, where first half it's back and forth a little bit. A lot of times the Chiefs pull away when they score at the end of half, and then they get the ball back and score in that opening drive of the second half. That's a big reason why Sean's hampering on this, the way he's doing it and the way he's trying to drive it home with these guys. It was really kind of cool to see, how nuanced he was about it. We'll get into how the players played in it, but man, it was just stoppage after stoppage today.
Yeah, it really was, and it was that teaching. You got to see Sean. He says he loves teaching. That's one of the reasons he loves being a coach, is that teaching, and he was doing that. And James, I want to hit on something else that you talked about, man, yesterday was, for being a day without pads, you would think it would be a step back. It didn't feel like a step back. They didn't have pads on. Today, I totally agree with you. Maybe like a little light hitting, but an hour and a half practice. Maybe go fast but short to prepare for tomorrow. And it was not that at all. Another 2.5 hours, maybe the longest practice camp. It dragged on. And that made me step back and think about this camp so far. I know we're only 9 practices in. There really has not been a slow day in terms of Sean Payton choosing for it to be slow. First couple practices have to be 90 minutes, can't be longer than that. But Sean's taking it up to the time every single time. This is a hard training camp so far, and maybe Sean will let off the gas a little bit, but you got to realize the stretch the Broncos are in. Starting this past Monday, from that past Monday to next Friday, they practice every single day but one.
Sunday.
I think that except for Sunday. Yep, that's the only day that they aren't practicing. That's a grind, man. And I think Sean it's way more his team now this year than it was last year, but there's still some carryover. I think Sean is trying to separate the water and the oil and see just like exactly who his guys are during these 2 weeks.
It's so funny how camps are being run. Sean's in that group that's old school, that in my opinion is shrinking in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 of the best at it didn't get jobs this offseason, in Mike Vrabel and Bill Belichick.
Good point.
Those are 2 old school, hard-ass coaches.
Yeah.
That the reason that Mike Vrabel's not coaching in the NFL this season is insane.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
He's an unbelievable football coach. What I'm thinking about with what he's doing, I mean, they're running gassers at the end of these practices.
Yeah.
He's going to play his starters in these first 2 preseason games. Now, how many reps is like Pat Surtain going to get?
Right.
Not a whole lot, but we're going to see a lot of starters in both preseason games. I think he's taking from what happened last year, where they were 2 years ago one of the most injured teams in the NFL, to last year being the healthiest team in the NFL, and they played in the preseason.
Yep.
And he pushed them. So he's like, maybe I'll push him again and see, because there's a lot of position battles here.
Yeah.
There's a lot he needs to find out.
Right.
I go back to when I was in Philadelphia last year for camp. It was so low key, They barely had back-to-back day practices.
Really?
Don't quote me on this, I don't think they went 3 days straight without a day off the entire training camp.
That is wild because I think of them as such a physical team.
And it's so funny. So it was all about mental reps. We went to the Super Bowl, shortened off season, played a lot of games. We're going to go through a lot of mental reps. And Nix Jarrett was harping on. I keep saying harping today a lot. Like it's a little weird. He was really hard. I don't know. He was really hard, like Andy Samberg's wife. She's one of the best hard players in the world.
Wow. And I didn't know that.
Little sidebar.
Yeah.
And
are you buddies with Andy Samberg?
No,
I wouldn't be surprised.
He's not on the list.
Okay.
I wish he was. He's awesome.
Yeah.
I think Palm Springs is one of the most underrated movies ever. You ever seen that movie?
No, never even heard of it.
Oh my God.
I would have thought you were talking about yourself.
I'll check the chats to see if anybody has seen Palm Springs. The movie's amazing. It's kind of like Groundhog Day, but a modern version. He keeps reliving the same day over and over again. Probably the way people feel about camp.
I did understand the Groundhog Day reference.
Yeah,
I got that.
It's kind of like camp. But Nix Jarrett was very big on like the mental aspect and how we do in situational football. It was a very situational football heavy camp. This year, and they didn't play well last year, super physical. Much more intense, much more physical camp than they had a year ago. This is constantly, that example is because coaches are trying to figure out that balance. We got to stay healthy. We got to stay fresh. But we got to work these guys and get them into football shape. And Sean's looks like he's leaning into that. Yep. I really don't care. We're going to push them hard because we pushed them hard last year, and physically they responded.
And you know what? I think that it's probably you have to know what your team is, what your team needs, and then kind of go. There you go.
Palm Springs
Underrated.
is a great movie.
Top tier movie.
Boom. Agreed.
Palm Springs rock as well.
A lot of love in there. Absolutely hilarious. Fact. That movie is fantastic.
3 for 3 right there.
Dude, there's a lot of love in there for Palm Springs.
There is a lot of love in there.
The movie's phenomenal.
Maybe it's because it's named after you. Jimmy Palm
Tree Springs?
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
No. That wasn't the reason for the love. It's Andy Samberg's genius.
And we see Nathaniel Hackett come here, and he's like, nope, we're going to take it very easy in camp. We're not going to practice anyone in training camp. And he points back to Green Bay and says, look how much success we had there. He also had Aaron Rodgers there. But I love that Nick Sirianni is catering to his team. And maybe Sean does that next year. Now, I don't think we're going to see like light practices every other day from Sean, but I do think you have to have the tone of your team. And I think Sean definitely has a pulse on his team, and we've seen it. I mean, he's talked about the young and hungry and the energy that's there. And so I wouldn't also be surprised if, let's say, next Wednesday, he gives the guys a surprise day off because he's happy with their success.
Does somebody have to make a shot, or something?
Should it be?
Remember when there used to be the basketball hoop out there? Drew Lock was just raining threes.
Yeah. Well, didn't that happen in Philadelphia? Wasn't that CJ?
Yeah, CJ Gardner-Johnson did
2 days ago or something.
Yeah, a lot of times. Well, the fun one that it used to be, and this used to be in camps all the time. It would be you'd get like the biggest offensive lineman.
Yeah.
And you'd send them down for punt return, and you'd blast a punt to them, and if they caught it, the practice was over. And now I've been to multiple training camps where everybody comes out thinking there's going to be a full practice. Then there's the stretching, and then the coach calls everybody in and goes, he catches a punt, we're going inside. Oh my God. And everybody's on pins and needles, waiting to see if this 400-pound dude is going to catch this punt. Oh, it's a blast. Maybe that happens.
You have to follow through with it because if he doesn't, you got to continue with practice.
You got to.
I think they should do this with the kickers once a year. Put them in a stressful situation by doing this because otherwise, I don't know, maybe some kickers are good at putting pressure on themselves when there's absolutely no pressure to feel that pressure situation. But I think that's a great way for a pressure situation. Put Will Lutz out at the 58-yard line and say, if you make this, no practice tomorrow. Everyone gets a full day off or something like that. Or it's the beginning of practice.
Wait, I wasn't here yesterday. Did you guys talk about Will Lutz yesterday?
Oh, his great day?
66-yarder yesterday.
With a couple yards to spare?
That was a bomb.
Is that right?
Yeah, that was a bomb.
Yeah, Will Lutz, he's our model on our podium, which we'll bring up in just a second after we talk about the quarterback play. But before we do that, I've got to give, what did you say about the quarterbacks?
I was trying to tease for everybody listening.
Yeah, well,
quarterbacks coming up. Stay tuned.
Quarterbacks coming up.
See, I was trying to help you out,
tuned. That was a great tease because I got to tell you about our friends over at Toyota. We're in the Toyota Lounge right here. And if you need a car, Toyota has it all. They've got the Supra, which if you get the yellow Supra, it looks like a Lamborghini sports car, but it's actually a Toyota. So I'm sure a lot more affordable. And they've also got everything up to the big time trucks, including the Tundra truck. And if you want that hybrid version, you can get the Tundra iForce Max Hybrid, which the hybrid part provides even more power in the engine. So they've got the powerful cars, whether you're looking for big or small. And of course, they just launched a new Land Cruiser this spring, the 2024 Land Cruiser, 2024 Tacoma, and their 2025 models are already on the way. So if you want to check out the brand new Toyotas, you can check them out over at your local Front Range Toyota store, whether it's RAV4, Grand Highlander, or anything. Check them out over at your local Front Range Toyota store, where you can visit them at your location near you. AutoNation Toyota of Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota, the official automotive partner of the NFL and the official vehicle of DNVR. And we just had a very special guest chime in, and I want to talk about that special guest after I give a shout out to our friends over at Indeed. We're over at Indeed. If you are a job, or if you're hiring for a job, Indeed is the place to go. 350 million monthly visitors.
My guess was 10,000 the other day.
Yeah.
I was slightly off.
What is that? A multiplier of
Here he goes. He was a mathlete.
Million?
Zach was a mathlete.
That's probably wrong. Yeah, that's definitely wrong. But they have so many people looking for jobs over at Indeed. And if you want to just skip the busy work and get to hiring, Indeed has it. And they don't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. So go check them out over at Indeed.com/AllCity. And if you use that code AllCity, they're going to give you a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility over at Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And James, funny enough, we got you on the show today. We've got so many. We literally have a few people in the Toyota chat asking for Alexis Perry.
They were.
And she pops up.
There she is, right there.
In the Toyota chat. Alexis, it's so good that you're riding with us. And so many people have asked, like, okay, it's training camp time. When's Alexis joining? Okay, preseason's right around the corner. When's Alexis joining? Alexis has left the state of Colorado.
She hasn't left the chat.
She has not left the chat. So we absolutely love Alexis. Anytime, Alexis, you come back to Colorado, we would love to have you here. And I tell you what, it's like every day, Alexis, people are asking where you are. We love you. You're always welcome here. But you had to go to the land of palm trees. She had to go to the land of palm trees herself.
Well, she did say, she said, look, I have to tune in for my Broncos fix. Plus Jimmy Palm Trees is on there for training camp coverage. What? She said, this is the best. Alexis, what do you think of the movie Palm Springs? There's still a lot of love in here for Palm Springs. I'm really digging it.
Have you heard of Palm Springs, Alexis? It's okay if you haven't. You can be one of me.
That movie is actually so good. And if it didn't get dropped in the middle of a pandemic, I think it would have been a hit.
That movie's phenomenal.
Dang.
So good.
It's everybody's what they got to do.
So that was like one of the first streaming movies then, probably.
Well, it was supposed to have a big theatrical release, and then like all the theaters shut down. But it was like kind of like Andy Samberg's like supposed to be his like coming out party.
That's right. Everybody tonight, when you get done watching this, just watch.
Okay, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And James, you teased the quarterbacks. Should we dive into some quarterback scores? Of course.
Yeah.
Starting with Bo Nix, and this isn't just going to be grading the quarterbacks. It's also going to be looking at a very important part of camp today, the 2-minute situation period. But before we do that, let's dive into our scores. James, don't look at the screen. Give me your score. Oh, you're peeking.
Who's this for?
This is for Bo Nix.
Oh, I'm going to go 6.
Oh, wow.
0.5.
Okay, so 6.25 with the bar?
6.5.
6.5. Okay. So
Yeah.
James going 6.5. Henry went, what did Henry go with? He went with an 8. Wow, Henry with the highest on Bo Nix today. And I went to 7.75. James, little down on Bo, but you still think he had an above average day.
He threw the ball well. There are a couple of decent completions. He's looking to push the ball downfield a little bit more. I did like that. Listen, I just try to talk to the right people about what's there. So I'm not going to say like I'm Mr. like film analysis guy, but like I'd like to see the ball get driven downfield a little bit more. I'm curious if this is his deep ball, or are these just maybe a little bit of a, I think I got to throw it instead of fully committing to just, the one to Courtland, where he made a great catch where he stretched out in the end zone for it, but I believe only got 1 foot in. After practice, Court said to me, I want to double check the tape though, whether I got 2 feet in or not. That ball kind of hung up there a little bit. as well. And
Fair.
so I did like, there was a ball on a crossing route over the middle of the court. That was a really good ball.
On Pat Surtain and perfect coverage.
It was like the first time I think I've seen somebody throw to Pat like in a team period. Guys just look away from him entirely. But also, like, I know it's not all on him. Some of those stoppages that were happening, like we said, probably a half a dozen times they went to the line of scrimmage and then back to the huddle. But that's your offense. You're the quarterback. You're in charge of everybody in that group. It runs off of you.
Yep.
I don't know. We don't know. We're watching from the sideline exactly whose fault each one of those was to go back to the huddle. But again, that's your group. And I would say when the 2-minute rolled around, Bo and Stiddy both had a decent job moving the football downfield. Both of them got into field goal range, which was kind of like, I guess, quote unquote, the goal. But I think watching Bo's first, where there was repeated stoppages over and over again for whatever reason or not, Stidham went out there and it was like bang, bang, bang.
Yep.
We're in field goal range.
No, it's very true.
It was run a little bit more smooth by Stidham today.
And without a doubt, that was the most concerning thing and biggest negative from today's practice from Bo was all the stoppages. You mentioned it. I think all of them were with Bo under center.
I think so.
But then maybe my biggest positive from Bo was one specific play in team period before we got to the red zone where Bo did a great job identifying a blitz coming right before pre-snap. So you could see him see it coming. He changes at the line, changes protection, maybe change the play, but at least change protection. And then that led to a wide open pass to Josh Reynolds, about 25 yards downfield where Josh was just wide open. That was maybe the most oh my gosh, he's all over the place. Number 11. And we'll talk about him when we talk about Marvin Mims a bit later because I think he's taking his job right there. To me, that was maybe the most encouraging play I've seen from Bo is Sean's clearly giving him a lot of responsibility already.
And opportunities.
And opportunities. And he was able to maximize that because we've seen running backs the past few days miss when blockers come or miss when rushers come, and then it turns into an easy sack. He made that great adjustment at the line that turned into that. You said he's not pushing the ball downfield, which is right.
No, I said today he had a few that he did push down.
Yeah. Like for 25, that I think that one to Josh Reynolds was probably the biggest play of the day that he had. You mentioned the one to Courtland, 10 or 15 yards. That's just the one thing that I want to see in Bo's game develop is actually hit a long ball because these are more like darts that are downfield. Still want to see that long ball, but at least we're starting to see the progression because a couple of days ago it was like, he's on the Jarrett Stidham path where it's 5-yard completions and nothing more.
Yeah, I really do think when you watch all three of them throughout all these practices that have gone on and on is like the only guy that's really picking his eyes up and trying to look to take a shot is Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Part of his game. Yep. He's probably also like, what do I got to lose?
It's true.
I mean, my understanding is he's not out of the race yet. Yep. Seriously, he's not. We're starting to see some reps change or whatever, but they haven't told him he's out, to my understanding, at all. But yeah, he's the only one that's really looking downfield to take some shots, and he does. He takes a couple. He does probably every practice. Those are the ones that we're relying on to get some, some more big play excitement at these at these practices. I want to go back because I wasn't on yesterday, but I wanted to kind of talk about this when we're talking about Bo and the understanding that you mentioned when PJ Locke was talking about him looking safeties off.
Yep.
And that he was really impressed by that. Let's look at that in two ways. One, not super impressive. If you don't look safeties off in the NFL, you can't play quarterback in the NFL. So, let's not over-exaggerate the fact that Bo Nix is looking, he's looking a safety this way. He throws over here. I mean, every single quarterback in the NFL has to do that to be able to do their job.
If you can't, you fail.
If you can't, you can't play the position. You will not play.
Yep. Are you impressed at all that he's doing it early?
Yes. Okay. The reason that's impressive is because he must be comfortable enough in the operation of the offense after the snap of where his receivers are, where they're going to be in terms of depth, in terms of where they are going to be in their breaks, and going through his progressions, that he has the comfortable sense to take the moment to look a safety off and then go back to his receivers and go through his progressions. Because if it's still new, which it is, and it's new for Zach Wilson too, you should be going, I know this play. This is my first read. This is my second read. Where's the Mike linebacker? Make sure I know what kind of coverage this is. And you're going through progressions. Yeah. If you're comfortable enough to start looking the safety off while you're doing that, to me, that's showing me he is getting pretty comfortable in operating the system.
Right.
That's what we should have taken out of the quote.
Right.
Is that there's a added comfortability apparently that Bo has, that he's taking the moment to do that he's not so locked in on his guys while he's learning this. That's the positive we should take out of it.
I love that. And then you combine those two things that I said, that you said, and you're seeing a guy that seems to be the guy the Broncos were hopeful that he was when they drafted him. Because, James, if any of these 6 quarterbacks that were drafted in the first round was ready to go week 1, it probably should be Bo Nix, or at least Bo Nix should be close to the top of that list, even though he was a 6th quarterback drafted. 61 career starts in college. He's 24 years old. He's really smart mentally. At least that's what we thought. That's what the Broncos certainly were sold on. And so he should be picking this up quick. And so the fact that we're now seeing that happen, 9 days in, come on, this is still so early, in camp, in his career, and we're seeing positive steps. It is encouraging, at least.
Big time. And I think we do need to check the local media in a sense. Bo Nix has not won the job. He's not winning the job right now. I don't think he's winning the job. Okay. Do you think he's winning the job?
Slightly.
You think he's in the process of winning the job?
Yep. Oh, I definitely think he's in the process of winning it.
I think he's in the process.
James.
I think he's in the process of narrowing the gap.
Okay.
He's progressing well.
Yep.
And I think it's going to get to a point to where if it's close between him and Stidham, and you don't think you're going to wreck him mentally by putting him out there week 1, you're gonna play Bo Nix.
Right.
I don't think that's winning the job.
Oh, okay.
I think that's winning a fixed election in a dictatorship country. Like,
well, isn't that what this is, though?
Yeah, that is what this is.
No one's voting on it. It's Sean getting a hand pick.
No, but you know what I mean. Like we kind of know like who has the say in this.
Yeah.
And what direction it's going. I think everybody who's participating in it understands that as well. I think Jarrett Stidham probably completely understands it. He's a pretty bright guy.
Yep.
He knows where it stands for him. I would say Zach Wilson does, and Bo Nix does as well. I think Stidham has to know he needs to blow Bo Nix out of the water, and hold him way in the rearview mirror for him to be really considered the week 1 starter. Because if it's close, why wouldn't you play Bo Nix? If it's
100%.
really, really close between the two. But I don't think Bo Nix is out there winning the job right now. I think he's progressing well and getting better every day. I think that's the goal that he should have. Not like, I wonder when they're going to tell me. Because I don't think they're going to make the decision, in all honesty, until after the second preseason game.
That's very fair. 2 days ago, I 100% agreed with you there. I think if Bo Nix continues to progress this way, maybe they make it a little bit quicker. But James, I do agree with you. Bo Nix certainly isn't winning this job right now in terms of running away with it. It's exactly what you said. I was viewing it through like, man, if they're close, if Bo stays where he is right now,
is that him winning the job? Don't you want him to go out there and clear like that is the starter?
Yeah, I think if he continues to do this for 2 more weeks, though, I think the Broncos will feel comfortable enough saying he has done enough to earn it. But now it's just, can he do enough to be good enough that we give it to him?
You know what I'd be careful of?
Win
and
by
this
default.
is just this is the dangerous ground we're getting in, winning by default. Because, and I'm not saying this will happen, but this can happen this has happened in places where the locker room knows that Bo Nix hasn't clearly won it yet.
Yeah.
And it's announced that he has won the job. What happens with Jarrett Stidham mentally? Does he want to be here anymore?
Well, it's like Jake Plummer with Jay Cutler.
Yeah, like do you want to stick around?
Right.
Do you want to be a part of that? Do the guys that think Stidham should have had a better crack at starting, how will they feel? I think reading your locker room and when they decide this is going to be very important.
And that's why
I think that's getting a feel for your room and your leaders and communicating with your leaders in your locker room is going to be really important, because this does have to be handled correctly as best they can.
Now, don't you think Sean has enough power to where he can try to convince the locker room that this is the right move, at least initially, early on?
Wait.
Like, if this were Nathaniel Hackett, who has done nothing, like I'm talking about before anything bad happened with Nathaniel Hackett, let's just say a rookie head coach comes in and makes that decision, and there were some veterans kind of on the edge about, is that the right move? Probably a lot of people would question that move a lot more with it being a rookie head coach, as opposed to Sean Payton, who's done this for, 16 years now as a head coach. Don't you think he has a little bit more say or a sway with the locker room, or no?
No.
Okay.
I think, obviously, his mind is probably further respected. obviously the pelts on the wall in terms of success are respected by players.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is kind of throwing out the other players on the roster that are out there participating in all of these practices and just throwing their opinion out the window. Like, they're going to know. Players know. Like, players know who's winning the job.
And I guess I'm viewing it through this perspective of camp right now.
I think, if he makes the call and he's like, Bo has won the job, you don't think there's enough guys that have been out there on offense every single rep going like, I mean, he's getting better, but I don't think he's won the job yet. Like, you don't think there's enough guys that wouldn't think that if he hasn't clearly won the job?
If he were to make the call right now, I think Bo and Jarrett have been, like, tied right now. So I think what players could say is, like, that's weird that you called it right now. Like,
no, I think they would say it's like,
better than Jarrett.
I think they would go, of course.
Sure.
That's probably what they'd say. You picked him 12th overall.
Right.
Of course.
Right.
And go, that sucks.
I don't think Sean would lose the locker room if he named Bo the starter.
I didn't say lose the locker room.
Okay.
I said guys would sit there and go, well, I don't think he's won it yet. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're making the call already. Like, they'd question it in their head. I'm not saying there's going to be some big coup or anything. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to turn on Sean. I just think you have to remember that the people that the players know, like, they know so much better than we think they do in terms of who's winning these battles and who's playing well and who's understanding it, because there's so many nuances of the game that we're not getting watching practice on the sideline.
It's true.
That they're getting in the huddle in every single rep, where the ball is supposed to be placed, when it's supposed to be thrown on time, check downs, making sure that you're not always checking down, that there are spots where you should be aggressive and push the ball, and you didn't. You just took the check down. Like, all these little things, operating the offense, getting into a run play maybe that goes through a massive hole and breaks it wide open, that we're just like, oh, that was a good run. No, that was supposed to be this.
Right. No, very
That's
fair.
the quarterback's play. But, like, so I do think players know. And I find it hard to be like, Bo has won the job, like, right now or anywhere in the next couple of days. People in the media, and I'm on a roll today, people in the media on the sideline I'm talking to are like, look at it, here we go. It's Bo's team. I wouldn't be surprised if they called it on Monday. I'm like, what are you watching? Like, he's getting better.
He is.
He's progressing, which is something he should be doing, which is good.
That's
You'd
true.
be fearful if he's not. Be more of a Drake May situation right now. Like, that's not progressing as well as they'd like right now.
I've heard who's the rookie late round pick that they got?
That's an exaggeration.
That's an exaggeration.
Milton.
Okay,
That's
Joe Milton.
That's that's a lie. But Jacoby Brissett is, like, clearly, like, that's a bigger gap than it is here with Stidham and Bo Nix.
And
I'll say
expected.
that for sure.
That was expected.
Definitely expected. That's the one guy that everybody I talked to said that he should, of all these guys in the first round, that's the guy that needs to sit the first year.
Right.
For sure.
Yep.
So there is that. But yeah, I just think, like, he hasn't won the job. I think that's getting said around town a lot, and it's not the case, at least from what I'm watching and from what I'm being told.
I mean, that is fair in terms of he has not won the job right now. And James, I do expect this to at least go and through the first preseason game, if not through the second preseason game. You give Bo the start. Well, you probably give Jarrett the start in the first preseason game, and then you give Bo the start in the second preseason game.
That's the way I think it will go.
That's how I think it's going to go. And then some point in that next week, you make the call, and then you decide if you want to play the starters in the third preseason game. But this is a competition. It's not just all about Bo. Let's talk about Jarrett Stidham, and then let's get into this red zone period, or this move the ball period at the end of the day as well. That's when Jarrett and Bo had some interesting plays as well. But first, I got to give a shout out to us over at DNVR. We've got so many events going on, and we want you to be part of them over at thednvr.com/events. That's how you check out all the events that we've got going on, including tailgate season. It's back, baby. We're less than 2 weeks away from the Broncos' first home preseason game.
Let's go.
And we're going to be doing a tailgate for the preseason. We're going to be doing tailgates for every single game this season, including the first home game for the Broncos, which is against Russell Wilson and the Steelers. Or is it against Justin Fields and the Steelers? What's your guess, James, right now? Who's starting that game?
Week 1. This is a nice little stretch Justin Fields is getting with the ones here. I think it still might be Russ to start the season, but this like training camp is probably like maybe might shorten the hook a little bit. I think that might be
Which
the
isn't
case.
what Russ wanted to start off his time in Pittsburgh. So I do think it's also going to be Russ, but I do think I wouldn't be shocked if it's Justin Fields. I hope for the storyline that it's Russ. We also have the DNVR Kickoff Classic, which will be at Legacy Ridge Golf Club in Westminster on August 16th. So if you're not making it to the Broncos-Packers joint practice, then you probably want to go out to our Kickoff Classic to kick off the season. It's brought to you by Toyota and Shady Raids, and the entry fee includes range balls prior to it, 18 holes with a cart, games throughout the golf course, goodie bag and limited edition ball marker, and great giveaways. So if you want to check out all the other events we've got, go over to thednvr.com/events. And you know there's going to be Coors Light floating around at that golf tournament. And floating around, it is a Friday, meaning it's Coors Light, baby. It's Coors Light. It's 100 degrees out. And Coors Light, thankfully, is all about chilling. Whether you just want to chill after a long week, whether you want to chill with friends, whether you want to chill from this temperature, go grab yourself a Coors Light over at CoorsLight.com/DNVR, where if you go there, Instacart is going to deliver
a bunch
Coors
of them
Light
last night
straight
playing
to your door.
volleyball.
Oh,
Yeah.
outside?
Oh yeah.
You going beach or on the grass?
No, we're playing grass. We're playing grass.
Okay. At a park?
Yeah, not Wash Park. Where we were at? Outside the Stanley.
Oh, man, Wash Park. There is like hundreds
There's a lot
of nets.
There's a lot
every single night.
I've played there a lot, but yeah, we're a couple Coors Lights.
Some Coors Lattes out there.
Yeah.
Man, and you know when it's cold because the can tells you. Bless you. The can tells you when it's cold because the Rockies turn
chilly in
cold.
here.
So, man, I could just Coors Light right now. It's a Friday afternoon. I know we got the FAC Club rocking and rolling later. Coors Light's probably going to be flowing there.
Yeah, there might be a couple Coors Lights consumed by the DNVR staff this evening.
I know you're participating in that, KO.
I might be. I don't think the mountains are blue on the ones on set.
Yeah, probably not.
unfortunately,
Good
but-
thing we've got other cold ones here at the DNVR bar. So check them out, CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Okay, so let's get through Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson's grades just so we throw those out there. And then let's get into this move the ball period. Jarrett Stidham, what grade? Oh, you didn't see. What grade would you give Steady Stidham?
So I was 6.5 for.
Yep, exactly.
So a 7.
You give him a 7. Slightly above Bo. Okay, I like this different perspective. I was at 7.75 for Bo. I'm giving him a 6.5. So still good, but not as good as Bo. And Henry, same philosophy as me. Still good, but not as good as Bo. 7.25.
What was Henry's score for Bo? An 8? Whoa.
8. I think that's the biggest grade Henry's given to Bo.
Highest grade he's given out all camp. But to clarify, Henry's grades are not subjective. He just runs numbers.
He just runs numbers.
Okay.
So he has a system. I don't know what the system is, but that's how it works.
I think he grades every period and then averages them out at the end. I think it's something like that. Yeah.
He's got like an old school notebook out there too, which is kind of cool.
Very scientific. For me, the reason that Stidham had a very, very, very similar day as Bo, outside of one thing. He and Zach Wilson took a lot of sacks today. And now this isn't uncommon. Bo's taken plenty of sacks, but not today. He actually he had fewer sacks than those guys. Today, I'm not concerned about it with Jarrett Stidham. I think if right now, if anyone's going to take the fewest sacks in the game, it's probably Stidham, then Bo. Then Zach is probably going to take the most sacks of that group. But I thought Stidham was good. And I call him Steady Stidham, but he was above average today, definitely. And highlighted by what happened at the end of practice, which we'll talk about.
That's what I want to talk about because that was the most game-like moment of the entire practice.
Yep.
Was the 2-minute.
Yep.
And like we said, when Bo was out there, he did get them into field goal range, and that was essentially the goal. Apparently, moved him well. A lot of stopping, a lot of kind of hey, let's make sure we're doing this.
Yep.
That kind of happened. It just felt like it, and tell me if I'm wrong. It just went way smoother when Stidham went out there, and it was just they're in field goal range.
Yeah, it was.
He had the big completion, which is in that 2-minute drill, you need one big completion, and he had the big one. And then just the overall command is much more decisive. Now that should be the case. He's 2 years into this system.
Yeah.
He definitely has a better grasp of it and a better understanding. But tell me if I'm wrong. If you disagree, when he hit the field in that 2 minute, it was this is you're here. We're completion. We're on the ball. Everybody set up. We're on the ball. It just was so much smoother than Bo's in the final.
No,
period.
and
I don't think Zach got to go in the final period.
That's key.
Well, we were out there forever, so I don't know.
It happened twice today, James.
Yeah.
I think it's the first time where we've seen the top two guys get reps in a drill, and then they just move on to another period. That's the first time that's happened. So while I do agree with you, and I've also heard like Zach has not been told that he's out of this competition.
He's not.
It's pretty darn clear that he is without telling him. And like they don't want to fully close the door because, as Henry has said, you don't really gain anything from like just closing a door that doesn't need to be closed because you can't open it back up. But it's very clear. I mean, every single day goes on. There's something else, and today's was pretty telling. When in a
Do
very
you think he's playing that
important
much worse than the other two? Like exponentially worse than the other two?
I think Jarrett and Bo are neck and neck. You could say one's slightly above the other, and I think it's fine. I do think Zach has played better than I thought he was going to, but I think it's a step down, like a
Do you think
noticeable
it's like a
step down.
A noticeable?
I do think so.
I don't think it's like that noticeable, which
Okay.
is wild.
So then, really quick, before we get dive deeper, what do you think of Zach Wilson's grade today?
Well, you're right. His reps were limited.
Yeah, it's true.
In a sense. He took a couple shots. I'd say like a 5.5.
Okay. I think I'm right there with you, and I think Henry is as well. Henry and I both win 5. You win 5.5. For me, this is an improvement. Zach Wilson is improving this camp. I think he was only getting like below average grades last week from me, and now he's hitting the average. So we're really seeing all these quarterbacks kind of progress or I should say Zach, the first-year quarterbacks in the system, progressing at the same rate, which is very encouraging to see. That's credit to them. It's also credit to Sean Payton for coaching these guys well.
Big time. I mean, you're paying him the big bucks.
Yep.
Let's go, man.
It's on him.
He's one of the best on-the-field teachers of football maybe this league has ever seen. That has to be in full effect right now, and that is specifically at the quarterback position. Now, does he like when quarterbacks run in 7-on-7?
Oh,
What do you think?
give me a break.
What do you think he said?
I
Oh,
can't
Zach, you're
believe
so
it.
upset.
No, he hates it. That's not what he said on the podium today.
What'd he say?
He said, what did he
I'm
say?
cool with it.
He wants it to be game-like, right? Which I don't know if that's truly how he feels.
Do we have enough time to get into this? We're supposed to be done 3.
We can. Let's hit it really quick, and then let's finish up with the what is it? Move the ball. I've messed that up. What do you think? So, okay.
I think this is training camp. I think this is practice. I think this is where you make mistakes. And there's a lot of coaches in the NFL that feel that way. So I would prefer for the quarterback not to run unless, say, it is a designed portion of your offense. This is a weird example, but like Lamar Jackson is I think he's a very good pocket passer. But the legs are obviously a huge part of his game. If it's a big part of your offense, maybe he practices recognizing like, hey, we're running this type of concept where this side completely floods out. Like, and if the DBs go like that's a 40-yard gain, take it.
Right.
Like that's gonna be part of our design. Yeah, cool. But like just running in 7-on-7, take the chance.
Thank you.
Try to squeeze the ball in. Like some of the best quarterbacks ever played in this game. Like Tom Brady loved practice. And he loved camp. You know why? Because there were no consequences.
That's a good
I'm
point.
serious.
Yeah.
So he could be more prepared for games. So in camp, it's like, let me try to get this ball in this window.
Right.
Well, it's picked off. Honestly, Tom Brady could have given 2 shits about getting picked off in training camp. Like, now if it's a bad ball and it's a bad decision and he didn't see somebody and they come in and pick it off, that's different.
Sure.
But trying to get a ball into a window or trying to make a play, now's when you do it. I think we overjudge, like, Bo didn't have any picks. Like, did Bo take any chances?
Right.
Did Stidham take? Well, Stidham's not taking a whole lot of chances either. It seems like he's playing a little, like, I don't want to make a mistake a little bit as well, but like
veteran, I want to win this job.
Yeah. Like, you know who we never really cared about, like, throwing picks in practice? Veteran established quarterbacks that are the starter.
That's the key. They're established. They're the starter.
Why do you think? Yeah, exactly. Their thinking's a little bit different, but also that's how they became the starter. Probably getting better.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Pushing the envelope a little bit. So I don't want guys to run in 7-on-7. I don't know if we can like hit like Sean with some truth serum and see what he would say specifically. He might be, I don't know, might be fine with it, like he said. But most guys around the league that I talk to, they want their quarterbacks to try to push it and see. And if it gets picked off, they're like, all right, don't do that in the game. Can't make that throw in the game.
Especially like Bo did it today. We've seen Zach do it. A lot of these scrambles are just like, they're just like jogging out of bounds. And it's like, that's not very game-like either. So I can't imagine Sean goes back and looks at the film and says, okay, that was the right decision to jog out of bounds for a loss of 1. No.
That's why I'm like, I don't really agree with the game-like. Because if it's game-like, you maybe won't force that ball. Like, now's the time to be simulated like a game, but, like, take the chance.
Yep.
Like, I think right now Bo should be trying to find out. Like, these guys move different.
Yeah, that's a really
In college,
good point.
you're playing against, even if you play in the SEC, you're playing against a defense that has 5, if they're a good defense, 5 NFL players.
Right.
If they're a really good SEC defense.
Yep.
How many NFL players are you playing against in training camp?
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
So, like, find out.
Veteran NFL players.
Yeah, so find out if you can get the ball in. Find out what it's like throwing a ball against Pat Surtain.
Yeah.
Like, I think you should be learning those aspects in training camp because you don't want to find that through the first 4 weeks.
Right.
That's when you can really get mentally crushed. So I like the idea of trying in these periods to see what you can get away with.
Man, and James, this conversation and what you're saying reminds me of when the Broncos had Case Keenum and when Patrick Mahomes was in his first training camp as the starter for the Chiefs. No one knew that no one outside of Kansas City knew that Patrick Mahomes was going to be this good. He had played 1 game before that training camp, and that was against the Broncos. Exactly. Week 18 when it didn't matter, and then they pull him, and then they put him back in for him to go lead the game-winning drive. But in that training camp, it was near the end of camp, and Mahomes had gone on like a streak where he had thrown multiple interceptions for like 10 straight days in camp. And Case Keenum hadn't thrown a single interception in camp. And so I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, in Broncos country sitting there like, they got this guy. Broncos have this guy. And then what happens?
The gunslinger.
You look 17 games later and
throws 50 touchdowns and wins MVP.
Yeah, and then made it to the Super Bowl.
When I said there's a group of coaches that really do not care about interceptions in practice, that guy's one of them. Big Red is definitely one of them.
And then
never cared.
It kind of makes me think like, man, maybe you should be taking that direction because Case Keenum was perfect, but maybe he just had no idea, how far he could throw. He didn't test any windows or anything like that. So it is a really good point.
And I think it's testing your offense against a lot of things. I mean, you're getting a sense, specifically as a young player. It'd be cool to have, like, we'll try to get it next week, like get Mahomes here, like, and ask him.
Yeah, can you do that?
No, I don't think so. He's in training camp. But no, like, I would love to sit and talk to a quarterback and be like, I throw a bunch of picks in training camp. I learned blank, blank. I'd love to hear what they feel like they learned from those picks.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot to be gained from the quarterback position on those plays. And that's what we're trying to do in training camp.
Yep.
Is grow and learn.
100%. All right, James, let's dive in to this move the ball period. At the end of practice, there was a minute 48 left on the clock. The Broncos offense had the ball at their own 25-yard line. It was the second quarter. They're down 6, 2 timeouts. Bo Nix starts first. And to me, Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham took very different roads to get to the same destination here. Bo Nix goes, I think it was 10-play drive of some dink and dunks. I don't think he threw anything further than 10 yards down the field.
I think so.
And he got it down to, 6 seconds left, I think, where the Broncos would have had, I think it was like a 49-yard field goal, 48-yard field goal or something like that. And then Jarrett Stidham gets on the field, exact same situation. In 2 plays, they're already in field goal range because he hits Brandon Johnson on a 5-yard play, and then he hits Brandon Johnson on a 31-yard play. So there's like over a minute left, and he has the ball at, I think, the 39-yard line, like borderline field goal range. It's like, damn, you have 2 timeouts still, you have a minute left.
It was
and then
3rd and 10, I believe it was.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, exactly. And then so I believe he ended with a right around a similar type of field goal, like a 50-yard field goal. So they both...
He scrambled for 9 yards.
Yep.
And then
for the very last.
And then had the wherewithal to run back, spike it.
Yep. So you were more impressed with Jarrett there. Tell me why.
The operation just seemed like it was more efficient. It felt like it was cleaner. And Sean was asked about this after practice, like, what do you look for in a 2-minute quarterback?
Yeah.
Everything he said is exactly what you're looking for. Decisive, extremely quick processor, Those are really, really big for anybody in a mobile helps.
Yeah.
But anybody, Drew wasn't all that mobile, but if you can go through it really, really quickly, and the internal clock is extremely important.
Yeah.
But there's a part that he said, I don't know if you remember this, where he's like, the really good ones, they call the 2 minute themselves.
Yeah. He said, we're just there as coaches. Like,
you're giving
giving
a little helpers
Yeah.
on the headset. Hey, maybe you take a shot here, maybe do this, and that's the understanding of an offense, like from the quarterback position.
Right.
That's like really, really knowing it. Because it was interesting that he kind of had this in his head and knowledge of it, where he was like, in a normal 2 minute drill, you probably huddle up almost every play except maybe twice. Was that interesting?
Yeah.
When he said that?
Yeah.
Because he's like, usually it's an out of bounds. Usually the ball goes, either incomplete or your receiver goes out of bounds. And you have the ability to huddle up again. So you do have the ability to process stuff very quickly. It's not like you're going no huddle the entire time down the field. And I think that's what most of us think 2 minute is.
No, it's very
usually.
true. It's a really good point. And but to your point, Jarrett Stidham was way more along that route than Bo was in this.
He was. Bo did his job. That's what he was out there to go do. If you're just gonna, pull hairs, did it seem a little cleaner and when Jarrett did it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's very fair. And the team didn't help either quarterback. Penalties on both sides. Sean was not happy about that.
Neutral zone infraction, I think.
Yeah, which gave Bo a first down when there wouldn't have been.
It's lucky.
So was there a neutral zone?
Was there a neutral zone infraction? Or was there like, call a neutral zone infraction?
He kicks Nick Benito to fall out.
Falls into the Bo gets a new set of downs. No, I don't know.
But then the offense had a holding penalty, which kicked him out of field goal range, which is like a coach's worst nightmare when you're in field goal range. And a holding and the Broncos had way too many of those. Broncos country is all too familiar with that over the years with that. But at the end of the day, they both, Jarrett Stidham took 6 plays to get there. Bo took 10 plays. Now, do you think Courtland Sutton got in? Because Bo took a shot. I believe it was on 3rd down right before they kicked the field goal at the end. Took a shot to Sutton. Sutton got maybe 1 foot in the end zone. The
refs said he got 1. Court coming off the field told me I want to see the tape. Maybe I got 2. He was fully. He didn't die, but his arms were fully stretched and caught it like on his fingertips, and it was a really good catch. What I'd like though is like, how good is he in the red zone? Like, he's fantastic in the red zone.
Yeah.
Make sure you put the ball in a spot to where he can make a play in the red zone, because he most likely is going to.
That's a good point.
So make sure that you give him the opportunity that he can. We have to watch again, but I want to see if that, I don't know from where we were standing, right? Because we were across the field. Is it on court that he didn't get the other foot in?
Sure.
Or did the ball drift and lead him out of bounds? Just make sure you're giving him the opportunity to make the play in the end zone, because we've seen what he can do if you can let him get his feet down.
Yeah.
He's probably going to make the play.
Yeah, I like that.
And that would have been huge.
Yeah, it would have been huge. And so this was a situation where Sean said he just wanted the offense. He was looking for points to start off this. Both quarterbacks went out and got points. And then he said once you get to a position, then you're looking for a touchdown if the situation's right. I think with Bo, the Broncos were never really looking for a touchdown. That throw to Courtland was more of like a prayer, 35 yards out. But Jarrett, when you have the ball with a minute left and you're on the 35-yard line, 2 timeouts, you're like, okay, we can actually score a touchdown there. Then things didn't work out, so they settled for the field goal. But both of them, in Sean's eyes, did succeed there. And James, there's one last thing before we jump into Super Chats that I want to get to, because maybe a negative has started to pop up this week, and that is Marvin Mims' frustration was very present today. And we can't talk about everything that we saw with his frustration, but there were a couple of times where he was throwing his helmet on the ground after a play. He was frustrated specifically after a deep one. He wasn't able to connect with it. He was turning around. I think maybe he and the quarterback were on a different page. But he is frustrated, and I don't blame him, because he's had a rough week right now.
He has. Well, I wouldn't. Would say week or last couple days.
Sure.
But I always misuse. My wife gets mad at me. I always misuse the word couple, because I use the couple of anything from 2 to 5, and she's always like, a couple's 2.
Oh, okay.
That's it. You use a couple days for 2 days.
So what's few?
So
is few a better word?
Maybe few. The last few days, you can see that you can see the frustration coming a little bit. And I'm not sure where it stems from. But you can clearly see that he's not super comfortable in terms of either the way he's playing, the way he's being coached, a variety of things, the way he's being used. We don't know. But you can see there's some frustration. Sean was asked about him after practice and said he thinks he's having a good camp.
Yeah.
And we obviously understand his speed and understand what he can do in the return game. But, yeah, I think it's something to keep an eye on because there's clearly a frustration there with him. Maybe Sunday's day off might be a nice deal for Marvin Mims because they need him because he's kind of the change of pace. He's like the outlier. He's like the Muggsy Bogues of the group. I'm not saying he's 5'3", like Muggsy Bogues, but they have a lot of the same style of receiver.
These
big-bodied wide receivers that have a big catch radius and can be physical.
Yep.
He's the counterpunch to that.
Yeah.
And he needs to be.
Yep.
And you need a deep threat. You're going to dink and dunk and you're going to run the football. Man, you better show teams you can stretch the field.
Right.
Or else the safety's going to be lining up right behind your middle linebacker.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to be in the box because you can't go deep. So Marvin is going to be important. They got to have that ability to just tease teams even, that they can go deep with Marvin and use his speed. We'll see what I'm excited to see him in the scrimmage because that's like a scrimmage to see what he can do because he is a needed person in this wide receiver group.
Especially, we talk about it today, how there's been like no deep passes from Jarrett Stidham or Bo Nix. That's Marvin's role right there, is to be that guy. And you mentioned it perfectly about how it's going to change the defensive front the Broncos face. Troy Franklin, to me, there's still a long ways for him to go in terms of he has a lot of time to get better. I wouldn't count on him for being that deep threat this year. You did draft him in the 4th round, more of a developmental placement to draft a guy. So if you want that small, fast, deep threat guy, it's going to be Marvin.
It has to.
And I want to see it this year, but I am, for the first time, actually getting a little concerned because I think I've been just as high on Marvin as anyone, especially this offseason.
I think a lot of people thought this big jump was going to happen this year.
Yeah,
that was a big part of it. And, we talk about this roster. There's like, I was asked this morning on the radio, kind of like, do you think this roster is better than maybe the national perspective is? I think it might be. Yeah. I think it has the chance to be. But you need things like Marvin Mims with a big jump. Right. And they predict Baron Browning will have a big jump. Right. They need these rookies to play like one of the rookie classes that Sean keeps comparing him to, which is bonkers in my mind. Because that 17 class he had in New Orleans is maybe one of the best draft classes in the history of the NFL. Yep. And he keeps saying that this might be on par with them. Like, okay, then if everything he's saying is true, then this team's probably more talented than the national perspective is. But we need to see it.
100%.
He sees it, that there's the chance of these things happening. Now they need to happen. Marvin is one of those main guys that needs to take that big jump that they think he can do. Yep,
totally agree. All right, before we get out of here, let's hit the super chats. Hit us with a thumbs up and the Toyota chat. Give Jimmy Palm Trees those thumbs up. All right, let's hit it from the first, coming in from the Blind Swordsman. DS says, I am also happy Bo Nix is a Bronco. That being said, start him week 1. Well, I'm not surprised that someone who likes Bo Nix wants him to start week 1.
Yeah, that was our Wednesday show, wasn't it?
Yep.
No, like watch Wednesday's show. I made a lot of arguments, and they're like, it's so funny. It's the league is divided into two camps in this. You should definitely sit your quarterbacks. No, you should definitely play them right away. These are the best offensive minds of football we've ever seen. Have these two differing opinions.
Yeah.
And when you talk to them about it, I've always left every conversation going, you got to play your quarterback. And then I talk to them, you got to sit your guy.
Right.
What's going on? Like they have great reasons and points why you should.
Yeah.
My number one is if he's mentally fine, and I think we're learning that during camp. You and I talked about it. Struggles in college probably, I think, prepare him better than some guys that had no struggles in college to deal with adversity, to have the ability to bounce back from mistakes. He seems very steady. If you know he doesn't get wrecked as a rookie, I'd play him.
Yep.
But there's a guy in camp that might want to talk to you about playing right away and ask Zach Wilson what he thinks about getting thrown into the fire right away.
That's a hell of a point right there. Yep. Next one coming in from Rickard Bohr says, would any of these quarterbacks have won another quarterback battle since Super Bowl 50?
Well, that's a great question.
What would be the ranking of best quarterback battles thus far since Super Bowl 50? That is a really good question.
I like that question.
So would Bo Nix or Zach Wilson or Jarrett Stidham beat out Trevor Siemian and or Paxton? Well, I guess Trevor, since you won the job.
That was that battle.
Yep.
Right? I'm a big Trevor fan.
I love Trevor. I'm
a big Trevor fan. Like, I just wish Trev could like stay healthy in the NFL through a really ball. One time, and I don't know if he was just pulling my chain, but like Emmanuel told me, it's like, this is the most catchable ball I've ever had. I'm like, he played with like 2 or 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on. But Trevor won that job so handedly. But Trevor was also exactly what Kubiak's system wanted.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious which one of these guys would have fit in. And I don't think any of them were going to beat Teddy, honestly.
I agree. No. I mean, Teddy was a vet coming in and played really well, too.
Yeah, I don't know if any of these guys would have beat Teddy.
And then the second year, beating Trevor or Paxton, maybe that's the more competitive one. I don't know, though, because Trevor was coming off a pretty good year. Remember, Trevor Siemian had all of the cards against him to be the starting quarterback. That should have been Paxton Lynch's
That was
job.
a first-round pick against a sixth-round pick.
Yep.
Seventh
Round pick?
Seventh round
Seventh.
pick.
All right. All right, cut. That was a first-round pick against a seventh-round pick.
Yep.
I remember people that went to Trevor's pro day talking to them. It was at like Northwestern. It was outside. They're right there on the lake. It was like windy, cold. He wasn't even fully recovered, if I'm right, from the knee injury.
I think you're right, yeah.
And he was on like one leg just spinning it through the wind.
Yep.
And they were like, I think Kubiak and Dennison and those guys were like,
Yep.
holy moly, like this kid can really spin it.
Yep.
Like, they loved him. So who's the most talented guy? Talent out of all of these? Zach Wilson?
Yeah, I guess.
Raw talent?
Yeah, raw talent. I mean, number 2 overall pick.
Arm strength, mobility, like. I don't think any of these quarterbacks would have beat out Teddy in any battle.
No, I
when
agree.
Teddy was in it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the strongest one. Great question, though, Ricker Bourne. Final one.
But it's funny, the ones that,
Yeah.
the ones that won it just had a really hard time staying healthy.
That's
like
true.
Trevor,
Yep.
Teddy, like Mark Sanchez went in that mix for a minute.
He was. And then just had a disastrous preseason game.
Yeah.
That's something that these quarterbacks can't do. One of these 2 quarterbacks, because then this job is.
I'm excited. That's
the
why I
other
think
one.
they're going to watch both games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially if you take it up to after week 1, is there really a harm in waiting 4 more days for the second preseason game? Like, at that point.
No, that's the thing. Like, I think if you were, like, to the beginning of this show, when we were arguing about whether you've sold the locker room or not, games will really sell a locker room, whether he's the guy or not.
Yep.
If Bo Nix goes out there and just lights it up when he gets to roll with the ones for maybe a half or something, I mean, then you could be like, the locker room can be sold in a game situation pretty quickly if you go out there and ball like that.
So Bo goes out there,
Or
first
Jarrett,
drive,
whoever it
scores
is.
a touchdown. Sean's like, it's over. Let's just pull him. Done. Don't need to see anything else. Don't put any bad tape out there, Bo.
Rig it.
Yeah. Well, you said it. It's a little rigged right now.
Might be, yeah.
Last one coming in from Mile High Sign, who says, if Bo keeps scoring 7 to 8 in this camp, would it change your outcome/record for the season? Also, did you see Adam Rank predict a 10-7 record for Denver? Did you see that? He has the Broncos starting 8-3 on the season.
Rank did?
Yes.
I'll have to give him a call.
Now, Rank, one of the things he also said, you might want to mention this in the call with him, when it came to Broncos Raiders, he said, Broncos are winning that just like they do all the time. I was like,
Well, check your facts there, Rank.
You might want to do a little research on that one.
Yeah, that's not the. I think he also has the Bears going 10-7 this year.
Wow.
And he's a huge Bears fan, obviously.
Makes sense,
But I
yep.
think he has the Bears going to the playoffs and going 10-7. There is a little window. I think after the first 4 weeks, I'm trying to remember the schedule where there's there's definitely some very winnable games in that stretch that you probably got to win almost all of them if you want to win 10 games.
Yep.
I don't see them winning 10 games.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas doesn't either. 5.5 is their Broncos over.
So slightly under 10
yeah, slightly
is what
under
Vegas
10.
is thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. James, awesome conversation. I absolutely love it. 3 days this week. You're rocking and
let's
rolling
go.
with us. Looking forward to even more as camp goes on. We're not done with the week.
like that
One
Wilson or
more
Locke.
practice
Very similar.
here. Who?
When he's got Wilson or Locke on there, that's very similar.
Yeah, that is true. Won a second round
Drew
pick.
had a
though.
lot of arm talent, man.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
he
a
did.
lot of arm talent.
Yeah, he did.
Lot
It's
of
going to be
swagger,
interesting
too.
with Daniel Jones. Could Drew win that?
Yeah, I'm not super happy with DJ right now. Even though John Mara like quadruple downed on Daniel Jones and his faith in him.
Hard Knocks might be.
I don't know about that. Well, their Hard Knocks is over. Now it's Bears Hard Knocks.
Oh, you're right. Oh, yeah, of course
They were
you're right.
off-season
Yeah.
Hard Knocks.
Yep.
My boy Joe Shane.
Man, that was a juicy Hard Knocks.
Did you like it?
The Giants one?
I loved it.
I only saw the Twitter clips, but they were juicy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
don't,
thought
you
it
don't
was
have Max?
so
I've
good.
never- no, yeah, I don't
it
have
was
Max.
so
Never
good.
watched
I
the full
will be
Hard
shocked
Knocks.
if they do it again.
To do what I do for a living, it was awesome because we're always trying to be like, wonder what that phone call was. When did you find out?
Right.
Who'd you tell? Like, how did it go down? Like, and it was really, the Saquon stuff was super interesting. How the quarterbacks were super. You got to find out how much they were in love with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. It's true.
It was cool. It also shows you how hard the process is.
Yeah.
Free agency is a crapshoot. Like, the minute you start thinking you have these guys in these ranges,
Right.
whole thing changes.
Man,
It's
and the
wild.
minute you're like, hey, Saquon, we're not going to give
Thanks,
you
AP.
We're
It's
not
a
gonna,
great show, I know.
Oh, thank you,
It
Alexis.
was.
Thanks for tuning in. Broncos might be on Hard Knocks next year. We'll see if they don't make the playoffs. If Vegas is right about the 5.5 wins, might be on Hard Knocks. Good. That'd be fun to see Sean with the cameras. And as he says, he wants to show how funny and hilarious and relatable he is to Hard Knocks.
Who did he say that to?
He said that to the media, I think at the end of last season. Hard Knocks got brought up, and he was like, you don't really want to be on Hard Knocks, but I wouldn't mind because I'd get to show off how funny and relatable and
He's had
how
some
many good
zingers
jokes.
lately at the podium.
Oh my gosh,
He had the one on Tim
today?
Patrick today.
Whew, you want to tell the people about that one?
Well, he didn't think Tim was playing real well. Made a couple mental errors, and he said, I think he said the wrong word on the podium. He said, "Do you think the ultrasounds over the last couple of years have affected your brain?" I think he was talking about like the number of MRIs Tim has probably had to go through due to the Achilles and the ACL and all the work that he's had and the number of times he's had to go under. I think that's what he was hinting at. Maybe the anesthesia has done something to your brain.
Right.
But he said Tim laughed pretty good at it when he told him on the.
Yeah, that is an intense thing to say. But absolutely love this show. James, thanks for
Yeah,
rocking
I
and
did
rolling with
too.
us. Thanks for your insight. And we'll be back tomorrow right around 2 p.m. for the final practice of the week. We'll see you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.